So we are in your economics book and we're now in chapter 9 and it's entitled What Money is Good For. And we're going to talk about first the three functions of money, and then we're going to get into metallic money and paper money in this video. So chapter 9, let's begin. The three functions of money. First of all, what comes to mind when you hear the word money? Sometimes I think of like pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and dollars, don't you? But the definition of money, according to economy and economists, basically says that it's anything that is generally accepted as a means of payment. Anything that is generally accepted. So you can have all kinds. It could be a paperclip if everybody accepts the paperclip as money. So it could be anything. It could be bartering through different things, or it could be, coins, or it can be paper money. So money can be anything that is generally accepted as a means of payment. Well, money is a very mixed blessing. Money can be used in evil ways, and money can be used in good ways. To either way, and we know that it's the love of money that's rid of evil, not just money in itself. Every civilization that in history, every civilization found it necessary to employ some kind of money in some way. The market, when you think of market, the mechanism by which sellers exchange goods at the market, right? That's where they exchange goods, would only be possible if we had money, right? Because big markets would be very impossible without money. We'd be exchanging goods and it would take a long time, right? And so it's important nowadays when we have a market that we have money. A significant savings wouldn't be possible without money, right? You couldn't save if you didn't have money to save, right? Or you wouldn't be able to have healthy competition, because healthy competition depends on the existence of money. So let's go on. When you think of civilizations, you think of the very primitive civilizations that they had bartering, but they still bartered for things, right? Or exchanged things. And we're going to talk about that. So the three purposes of money first. Let's go to the three purposes of money. Right here we have them listed in black here, you see? First of all is money is to be a medium of exchange, and then it's to be or to provide a measure of value, and number three, to provide a store of value, to be able to store money. So let's first talk about the medium of exchange here, which we talk here, the medium of exchange. Here, I like this picture here before we go on. This picture says the inhabitants of Yap, a Pacific island, have used large limestone wheels as money for centuries. So even way back in ancient history, they used things for money, right? So let's go back to the medium of exchange. So a medium of exchange is the agent that means exchanging, right? And without the reliance on barter, direct exchange, to barter something is when you're bartering, you're directly exchanged one good for another good. Without a standard form of money, you just swap things, right? And you're swapping one object for a good, or maybe swapping for a service. Like an example here, it says, say you wanted to buy a milkshake and you didn't have money at that time. It'd be kind of awkward if you decided that I'd like to pay for my milkshake with my homegrown tomatoes, right? Or I'd like to pay for my milkshake afterwards. I'll wash dishes for you for a while to pay for my milkshake. Or here's some wool socks. I have some wool socks I could exchange. We don't do these. In fact, the vendor would be very mad if you drank your milkshake and then we're going to pay by washing dishes. Maybe he wouldn't want you in the kitchen, right? So how important is money? Bartering was of old time, right? And so it's important that we have money. So it's a medium of exchange. That's number one. The important thing is that we can exchange with money. And we can exchange by basically finding the value through money, right? The The next is the measure of value. So the measure of value is number 2. We can express how much one material or good or service is worth compared to some other goods or services. So we can compare, say that we went to the doctor and it cost $30, and then we rode in a taxi and it cost $25. So we can compare those by money, right? The measure of value. We can also say a pound of steak is $30. Well, then we know a pound of steak is what it costs to go to the doctor, right? So we can tell the measures of value. Money enables us to measure the value of other goods against the value of our goods, so we can measure two values of goods by valuing them and how much money they're worth. So it's so important to know and knowing the equivalence so we can conduct our affairs accordingly by knowing the equivalence of how much something is worth. And we have some way of knowing by money. So that was number 2. Number 1, of course, was the medium of exchange. Number 2 is the measuring value. And number 3 is storing value. So it's important that we be able to store our wealth some way. So how can we store our money? Well, Aristotle, clear back in 340 BC, said money is the guarantee that we will have what we want in the future. If we don't have money to save up, then how are we going to save up money in the future? So this will satisfy our new desire when it arises. When we save money, we'll have the money available to what we really desire for, that we're saving for. Maybe you're saving for a car, or maybe you're saving for a bicycle, or maybe you're just saving for college. All those things, you can do that because you can save your money and satisfy those desires for later on. And it also ensures our financial stability or security. So we have so much money, whether in the bank, and when we grow old, we can have a retirement plan. If we didn't have money, we wouldn't be able to store up wealth very easily. We'd have to store our gold in the closet or something is what we'd have to do. So it's important that we have money in that sense, right? So there's certain characteristics of money. So let's talk about these characteristics of money. So when you have money, they have to follow these 6 characteristics. Now, all of money doesn't follow all 6. In fact, the last one, a lot of money today doesn't follow these rules. But let's see these characteristics of money. Number 1, portability. What does that mean? You can carry your money about, right? You can put it in your wallet, so it has to be very portable. Durability. It can't wear out. Even the dollars, when you put them through the wash, they're still dollars. They don't just wear out and disappear, right? So portability, durability, homogeneity, which means basically, homogeneity means a standard. You have to be able to recognize the money is standard. So when you see a dollar bill, oh, that's a dollar bill, you'll recognize it right away. Or you see a quarter, oh, that's a quarter, you'll recognize it right away. That's homogeneity. And then on to divisibility. That means that you can divide the money up. So if you have a $10 bill, you can divide it into 10 ones, or you can divide a $1 bill into 4 quarters. You have to be able to divide it. All those things are important so far. And then we have constancy. That means the stability in value. And sometimes, some places, money becomes inflated so much that it's worth nothing. In certain countries, that was, I think, the money in Germany after the war was worth nothing. In fact, they were using their money to light use it for kindle for their fires. They were just burning money for warmth because their money wasn't worth anything. So the constancy means that if you have money, it has to be stable in value. Intrinsic value is worth something on its own right. Now, these days, it's not. Intrinsic value means that if you had money, that you could go exchange it for gold, then it has value on its own. Or if you have a gold coin, that coin is actually worth something because it's gold. So it used to be that all of our money was backed by gold or silver, and today it's not. But the intrinsic value of this here, we're going to go on with that later on. We'll talk about the history of the gold standard. But now, intrinsic value in money in the beginning says it should have some value on its own. If you have a banknote, you should be able to exchange it for that which worth something, has worth on its own. You could exchange it for gold. Now, number 6 is not always, especially in today's world that we live in, things are not based on gold and silver anymore. But anyway, so let's go on here, and it talks about, it goes back to bartering here. So in some remote parts of the world, it's much more complicated when they don't have money. Why? Because there's a strong advantage of having money because it's convenient. Bartering is not so convenient, is it? So bartering, you can't divide things out, can you? So say you were going to, here's an example, you have a German Shepherd dog and you want to trade your German Shepherd dog for 2 sheep. Well, you think, well, the sheep, are not that worth that much, not a whole dog, so, maybe 2/3 of a dog. Well, you can't cut your dog in 2/3, but if you had money, you could pay them the value of that, right? Money, it's divisible into smaller units, and a dog in bartering isn't. So that's the difference. So if you have no money, who can say what precise value things are? So it's so important that we have money to know the value of certain things. So bartering also requires so much time and hassle. So if you're looking precisely for some goods, say you're really looking for, say you're looking for something specific, say you're looking for a specific car, and you didn't have money, but you want to exchange. You have to look and look and look for that car, and then you have to make sure that they want to barter and switch cars with you, right? If you have no money. And you'll waste a lot of times searching for what you want. That's bartering. But bartering and money are different. Money basically gives us the value. So let's go on. There's another section here that's, I didn't go over the scripture here. It says, "For thou, Lord, wilt bless the righteous with favor. Wilt thou compass him with a shield?" So basically, why did they put that in there? Because money can be used for good things, and money can be used for bad things. So, blessing the righteous with favor may come from the blessings of what money brings, is what they're saying. So this story is pretty cool. Of course, I like Nathaniel Hawthorne. He's very detailed. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it'd be good for you to read it. It comes from The Grandfather's Chair. So it's talking about pine tree shillings. So it goes back to the Puritans in Massachusetts. They had no proper money. They had to barter, right? Until the mid-17th century. So we're talking about 1600 something. And so they would have to learn to mint, the minting of coins. And they started to, and they had these coins, they were called pine tree shillings. They basically had a picture of a pine tree on one side of them. Well, how did this all start? Well, we have the story of Captain John Hull. I like these history stories; they're pretty fun. So he was considered a mint master. Mint is minting coins, making coins, right? So before they had no coins, remember, they had no way of money. They were having a hard time bartering. And so basically, they said, well, let's get together all our gold and our silver from England and Spain, that we've had, and let's put things together so we don't have to barter, with our bear skins, and to get a barrel of molasses, we have to switch for beaver pelts or whatever, or pine boards. So they started using bullets as shillings in the beginning. Well, they looked and they saw the Native Americans up here. It talks about this. Go up here. They saw the Native Americans, and the Native Americans even had money. They called their money wampum. And the Native Americans had clamshells, and they exchanged wampum for the clamshells for money. And they thought, we need to have some kind of money, because now they had to pay their ministers. They had to pay them with fish or bushels of corn or cords of wood, instead of silver or gold. And they wanted some way that they could have a liable type of money. So they went to their general court. They all got together and they passed to establish a shilling, which was similar to what they had in England. And so they'd have a shilling with 6 pence and 3 pence, but they'd have their own type. So the thing is, they got Captain Hull here, and Captain John Hull, and they basically said, we would like you to make us money. And so they got all their old silver, and they gave it to them, their silver cans, their tankards, and their buckles, and their spoons, bent spoons, and their swords, broken pieces of swords, and all these old pieces and these old coins that came from Spain too. And they threw them in this melting pot for Captain John Hull and his melting pot. And they threw it all in, and then he melted it all, and he brought forth these splendid shillings, pine trees. He minted them with pine trees and made them into these shillings. Each had the date on them. 1652 was the date on one side, and the other side it had a pine tree. These are true. They had pine trees on them. But the thing about the captain, so they decided, how are we going to pay the captain for doing our mint? They said, well, let's just say out of every 20 shillings that he makes, he gets to have one of them. So that's how they started. So for every 20 shillings, he took 1 shilling and he put it in his pocket. After every shilling, he made 20 of them, and he put the next one in his pocket. But now the money he was minting so much money, and people needed money to be able to exchange goods, that he was making a whole lot of money himself just by minting the money. And so the magistrates then basically suspected, that the mint master would have the best bargain of his 1 out of 20 shillings. And so they offered the captain money and says, well, we'll give you money, we'll just pay you some money for this, some of our money for this, and we'll find out. But he said, no, you promised me that 1/20th shilling. And there he had, he had his coffers full of and money bags in his strong box were overflowing with pine tree shillings, and he became very wealthy. There's a picture of the pine trees shilling. So a true story. But when you look at it, you look at what bankers today, that's what bankers are doing today. But really the bankers, well, of course, we have the minting of money, but not just the minting, the banking of money and the lending of money becomes very profitable. And bankers make a lot of money on dealing with our money, don't they? That's what I thought. It doesn't say here, but I thought, isn't that what bankers do? So that's the first chapter on money. But let's go on to, there's some questions here, but let's go on to the metallic money. Metallic money, metals, right? And so metallic money used to be referred to coins like gold, silver, bronze, and copper. So in fact it is still. They call it specie. And specie is kind of a weird, I never heard the name specie before, but it's referred to a coin that's metallic. It's a metal coin. And these coins have intrinsic value, means they're valuable in themselves. So especially gold and silver, because gold and silver have great value, especially in jewelry. You can put together jewelry, make jewelry out of gold and silver in the gold and silver industry. So these coins would have value, and they were recognized as acceptable mediums throughout history as coins. So throughout history, you'll see how gold and coin are acceptable type of money, coins. The coins are portable. You can carry them around. They're durable. They last a long time. They're well minted. When they're well minted, they're very recognizable. They might have a picture of Caesar on them, or might have a picture of George Washington or whatever on them, or Lincoln, So, but then they're also divisible into smaller units. You can make half crowns, florins, shillings, sixpences, threepence, pence, halfpence, farthings. Those are all English. Well, what about ours? Now, what do we have? We have pennies. We have pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters and half dollars and dollars, all in coins, don't we? So they're very durable and they're very recognizable. And gold and silver are very precious metals. So they have intrinsic value in many senses, at least back then. Today, not so much. But they also exist in limited quantities because gold and silver are very scarce, right? And so this keeps the equilibrium. They're two precious metals. And so gold and silver have always been good as for coins. So no one would want to make coins out of baked clay, although they did in the past though. But baked clay would be not so scarce. It would be easily broken. If you got it wet, it wouldn't survive. And anybody can bake some clay and just say it, counterfeit it pretty easily, couldn't they? So clay would not be a good idea for money. So let's go on to the next page here. Here's some Roman emperors debased the value of coins. So we're going to talk about what debasing is too. So back to our coins. In the 18th century, so we're talking 18th to 1700s when Adam Smith and the physiocrats lived, back then we went over them. Great Britain and the Netherlands, they had coinage. And everyone trusted then their coins on the market. And they were stable. And they were very intrinsic. They were worth something. And so it brought England economic success back then. And any person possessing gold or silver coins was in certain, basically the coins, they were certain that those coins would not diminish, that they wouldn't diminish in how much they were worth. And so Great Britain and the Netherlands became famous with their coins, and all the merchants trusted them back in, we're talking about the 1800s. In 1800s, you could buy 3 cows with a gold coin. In 1850, you could buy 3 cows with a gold coin. So they were very stable. And so in the midst, it says, I like where it says down here, it says, let me go up here. It says, houses might burn, fields might be devastated by drought or flood, ships might sink, merchandise in warehouses might be damaged, but gold and silver coins that were properly safeguarded would last their owner's lifetime and will be passed on to their heirs. So gold and silver coins lasted back then, and coins last today too. So, but even gold and silver coins have not always been perfectly sure forms of money, because you look back, they started debasing coins. Okay, let's talk about this debasing of coins. So, the Roman, let's look down here. This happened with the Roman Empire, and they deliberately debased coins. What they did is they took the gold and silver and they mixed other metals. So in between the gold and silver, inside they put lead, zinc, copper, iron. So they bring in the coins and then they mint them again and make them so that they weren't pure gold or pure silver. And so they didn't weigh the same. So basically the people thought, you know what? We're going to keep those old coins. We don't want these new coins. They're lighter weight, and they figured they were debased. But in the beginning, in Rome, the people were actually, it was a type of taxation. They didn't know that basically they were being robbed in their coins. So by having, what the Romans wanted them to do is have the people return their old coins, and then they could make large profits in gold and silver as the old coins and give them coins that were debased. And this was disguised as a form of taxation of Rome. And so the people thought that they could not trust the value of these new coins, and so they started hoarding the old coins. And so, in fact, when we talk about hoarding the old coins, there's a word for that. It's called Gresham's Law. Because Sir Thomas Gresham, advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England, he said, bad money drives out good. So Gresham said, and this principle has been observed when people hoard the old coins. When governments issue bad money, that is, coins or paper money that's worthless, then the money that had been circulating earlier will be hoarded. People tend to hoard the old money, taking it out of circulation. So, and that's what happened in Rome, and that's what happened when any type of bad money is circulated, right, they said. So this is not the only problem by issuing any kind of money that it's not worth face value. There's also coining or printing cheap money can lead to what economists call inflation. So, we're going to be talking in economics, constantly talk about inflation, don't we? Because inflation, it's important that we know about what inflation is, right? Let's see. Okay. What is inflation? Let's have the definition of inflation. When the level prices in the market rise because too much money is in circulation, we'll call this inflation. If prices decrease because money seems more valuable and stable, it's called deflation. Inflation is cheap money. It's when money's not worth hardly anything anymore. And as inflation goes up, it takes more money to buy things. A hamburger used to be a quarter, and now a hamburger you have to pay $10 for. So you can see how inflation works. And we're going to get into that later too, as inflation. And so let's go on to the next page. Paper money. Okay, let's see, where are we at here? We might have to stop here, let's see. Yes, going back into paper money, let's see. Debasing, we talked about all that. We talked about metallic money, so we're going to go into paper money. Paper money is going to take a little bit here. So it's already gotten time, so let's go ahead and I'm going to stop there and we're going to go over to the next and talk about paper money. Because paper money is a little different than coinage, right? And I don't think we have a whole long time. And anyway, so let's talk about paper money in the next video.